No mercy for these enemies of the people, the enemies of socialism, the enemies of the working people. War to the death against the rich and their hangers-on, the bourgeois intellectuals. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, December 1917. It has been estimated that in the wake of the Russian Revolution and Civil War, 2 million people left Russia. Because the color white represented those who opposed Lenin's red Bolshevik communists in their takeover of Russia, these emigrants are often called the white emigres. In August 1917, Pravda, the Bolshevik communist newspaper, co-editor Joseph Stalin, called for killing all priests, all officers, and all capitalists. Considered, along with the rhetoric of Lenin calling for no mercy for bourgeois intellectuals, it is not surprising that the huge numbers of emigres fleeing communist Russia included many of the educated. Who in the music world left? Rachmaninoff, graduate of Moscow Conservatory, successful composer, son of an officer whose family had been in service to the Tsar since the 16th century. Famous violinist Leopold Auer and several of his students. Stravinsky, who before the First World War had been going back and forth between Switzerland, France, and Russia, spent the war in Switzerland, entrance into Russia being blocked by the warring armies. Interestingly, there was another famous Russian in Switzerland at the time, Vladimir Lenin, the political exile. Near the end of the World War in 1917, Germany purposefully gave transport home to Lenin to create instability in Russia. Stravinsky, I guess, was not deemed enough of a destabilizing influence to warrant the Germans sending him to Russia. Stravinsky lost his property in Russia in the Russian Revolution and did not see his homeland again until he visited in 1962. Prokofiev, graduate of St. Petersburg Conservatory, also left, though later, in 1936, he returned, achieving some success in the Soviet Union. He composed his famous Peter and the Wolf, won 5 Stalin Prizes, lived with tapped phones, had to audition his pieces before the Committee on Arts Affairs, was denounced along with Shostakovich for writing anti-Narodnaya music, had to denounce his former composing style. His wife, albeit his estranged wife, was sentenced to 20 years hard labor, and he won another Stalin Prize, etc. His lineage was less detestable, I imagine, to the Soviet revolutionary ideal than someone like Rachmaninoff's. I discovered in my research that his mother was from a family who had been serfs of the Sheremetiev family. I was surprised to discover this because I knew of a Sheremetiev musician, Count Alexander Sheremetiev, founder of his own symphony orchestra, giver of public concerts in St. Petersburg, composer of this choral piece that's now playing, White Emigre. After the revolution, Count Sheremetiev left to France and quit composing. Throughout the 1920s, more left. Often they left Russia under the pretense of performing or studying, and then they didn't come back. Vladimir Horowitz, Nathan Milstein, Alexander Glazunov, and the famous bass singer, and the definitive Boris Godunov, Fyodor Sheremetiev. If you can't remember all these names, just remember this. Many countries through the whole course of their history never have as many famous musicians and composers as left Russia at this time. It seems a terrible thing for Russia to have this drain of creative people after losing so many lives in the First World War and the Revolution and Civil War. And when I began working on this I thought I would pose the question to you, is it better to go or to stay? But after researching, I now say, go. Do not stay in Soviet Russia. There's an anecdote of Dmitri Shostakovich's son, Maxim, whispering to his dad at a rehearsal of the 11th Symphony, "Papa, what if they hang you for this?" This was not an idle fear. I put up a list of people close to Shostakovich who were killed or imprisoned.